Navia is the newest character in Genshin Impact and a trendbreaker. How you ask? It's because, unlike previous Geo units, she doesn't scale off of defense or HP. Instead of focusing on attack, she literally has the highest base attack in-game, and what sets her apart is her versatility. Unlike other Geo units, she doesn't require a team solely comprised of Geo characters to shine. In fact, using a mono Geo comp would cost you significant damage. Let's delve into her kit to understand why. Navia's normal attacks is a 4-hit combo with the second and 4th strikes being high enough to hit even those pesky oceanid birds. Her elemental skill is her main source of damage, and it scales off the number of crystallized shard stacks she has. She gains 1 stack for every crystallized shard picked up by any team member, capping at 6. Consuming these stacks increases the shots fired by her skill, ranging from 5 to 11, with additional damage scaling beyond 3 stacks. The whole version of her skill is my preferred choice as it sucks. Crystallized shards within a range slightly smaller than Garnew's burst, enabling easy stack accumulation for maximum damage. While technically the skill is AoE, it mainly targets a single enemy. For instance, with 3 stacks, which is 11 shots, the main target receives most of the damage, that is around 7 to 8 shots, along with the primary skill damage, while other enemies receive less damage, around 2 to 3 shots, so it's not even worth considering in my humble opinion. After using Navia's skill, she gains a 4-second Geo infusion, boosting her normal attack damage by 40%. Do note that with proper element application, you can get 2 stacks within the 4-second infuse duration. However, against foes with permanent elemental infusion like Oceanid Mimics, you can achieve 3 stacks, though this result might be influenced by ping issues, so take this with a grain of salt. Moving on to her elemental burst, it unleashes a relentless cannonball bombardment, dealing AoE Geo damage and granting 1 shot stack every 2.4 seconds. These cannonballs are fired every 0.9 seconds, and the enemy detection range is similar to that of Jean's burst. These massive black balls will track and hit the enemy if it moves, ensuring maximum damage output and stack accumulation throughout the 12-second burst duration. You can gain up to 5 stacks this way throughout the entire duration. And finally, we have another passive talent which grants Navia 20% attack boost based on your party composition. With all that being said, I would recommend leveling up all her talents for maximum damage output, because let's be honest here, you're going to be using her skill, her burst is really good, and normals, well, you're getting Geo infusion every time you use her skill, so of course you're going to be using her normals as well. Now let's discuss artifacts. To no one's surprise, the upcoming Echoing Woods artifact set in 4.3 perfectly complements Navia. Its 4-piece effect provides a Geo damage bonus of up to 50% when maintaining an active crystallized shield, and achieving 100% uptime for this 4-piece effect is super easy. However, since this is a new set, not everyone will have it, I know that, and as such, a 2-piece combination of Golden Troop and Archaic Petra or the Hunter and Golden Troop set could be considered. However, these alternatives will result in reduced damage output, with the former resulting in 85% damage output of the best in slot set. As for the main artifact stats, prioritize an attack stance, Geo damage bonus goblet, and crit rate or damage circlet depending on your crit values. As for the substats, focus on crit rate or damage, followed by energy recharge or attack percent. I would recommend getting at least 140 ER if you plan on running her with another Geo unit, or 180 if running solo. Moving on to her weapons, her signature weapon is obviously the best in slot, with alternatives varying based on team composition. Unforged, for example, works well if you are running her with Zhongli, while Skyward Pride addresses energy recharge issues, and Wolf's Gravestone is for those who got cucked and lost the 50-50.
I swear to fucking God! You have to be fucking kidding me!
Among the 4-star weapons, the Fontaine craftable weapon titled Shadow is a good free-to-play choice. Lithic Blade at R5 is also super good, but requires using leeway-based team members and also Primogems to wish for it. The Inazuma craftable weapon is another viable option. However, if you are a bit of a dolphin, then Serpent Spine, in my opinion, is your best option, period. The full list of her best weapon rankings will be displayed on screen. Now let's move on to her team cons. Navia has multiple viable options as team partners since she relies more on elemental application than reaction damage. In my opinion, Geo Resonance significantly benefits her, boosting shield strength, damage output, and Geo resistance strength. As such, pairing her with Zhongli or Albedo is a good choice as it will help with energy regeneration. As for her other teammates, pairing her with another resonance core, be it Pyro, Cryo, Hydro or Electro or a combination thereof, works pretty well. With Pyro Resonance, you will get extra attack. With Cryo, you will get crit rate. With Hydro, I actually forgot what was the resonance effect. And with Electro, you can get more ER. Personally, I find the hypercarry team of Navia, Bennett, Albedo and Furina to be the best as it suits my playstyle, which is high risk, high reward. Other effective choices include Navia National and its variations such as Furina instead of Xingqiu or Yella instead of Sungling or both at the same time. The detailed list of potential partners for Navia and their elemental application efficiency is displayed on screen. So basically, what I mean to say is that you can run Navia with literally anyone. Well, almost anyone, because she just relies on picking crystallized shards. So of course, don't run her with an Anemo unit or a Dendro unit. Use Pyro, Cryo, Electro and Hydro units. And of course, within those, you have a bunch of options of buffers, sub DPS like Xingqiu, buffers like Bennett. So yeah, you can mix and match those and the team will work out fine, honestly. You won't have any issues clearing even the hardest content in game, which is Pyrolabis. So with that, we come to the end of this guide. I personally like Navia a lot since she brings a refreshing gameplay dynamic, incorporating crystallized shard stacking into her damage mechanics, a feature that hasn't been seen in any past units. If you liked what you saw, then make sure to like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you dislike it, and I'll see you all next time.